Okay, we are going to kick off our session labeled "Turning Loyalty into Marketing," and we have the pleasure of being joined by the CMO of Citi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Culver Gleason. I head up marketing. Can you hear me? No, I'll speak louder. Is that working? Okay. I head up marketing for Citi Services, one of the divisions within the Citi portfolio.
All right. So loyalty is a big and sexy term, as evidenced by the crowd. So the first question I want to ask you is let's bring down the altitude of loyalty. Like, what does it mean, and how do you define it? And then a secondary question is, I want to talk about you personally. Can you give me an example of a brand that you are loyal to based on whatever definition that you're going to give me around loyalty?
Okay. Loyalty. Can you hear me now? Okay. When I think about loyalty, I think there are a few words that come to mind. One, devotion, if you're looking at individuals and their loyalty to one another, commitment, conviction, reliability, and trust. And when I think about the foundation of loyalty, trust really comes to mind. When you think about the brands that you like, the ones where you're a repeat customer, it's usually because, one, they show up when they say they're going to show up. They deliver what you expect them, when you expect them to do it. And if there is something that goes wrong, they recover in a way that makes you go, that's what I expected. And when I think about brands personally, you probably can hear a little bit of a Southern accent in it. I am from the South, and I have a soft spot in my heart for a few brands, and they happen to be Southern brands. One is Delta, and I've been a Delta customer for quite some time. Like many of you that are in marketing, we travel, and I have traveled quite a bit in my career. And one year, I was commuting weekly to France. Not Paris, 3 hours outside of Paris. And my mode of transportation was Delta. And I had this job for a year, and I realized that you could hit a threshold with travel. And that was a year for me. And I left the company I was working for, a tech company, and decided to work for a local company. And a couple months after, stopping my weekly trips to France, Delta called me, and they wanted to know how I was doing. And I'll be honest, the first couple times they called, I ignored the phone call. I pushed them to voicemail, and I finally answered, and they're like, "Miss Culver, just wanted to know, are you okay?" And I thought it was a spam call. And they genuinely wanted to know because I was a loyal customer. And I proceeded to tell them, hey, I'm not traveling as much. And they asked me if someone had taken my job that was traveling from Atlanta to France. And I said, no, no one's as crazy as I am. And then they said, well, are you expecting to pick up your travel again anytime soon? And I said, I don't know, but right now I'm kind of enjoying just being at home. And they said, well, why don't we freeze your status? And I was like, okay, I'm good with you freezing it. They're like, you just call us when you're ready to start traveling again. So started traveling a few months later. I called them and I said, well, I'm traveling again. And they said, well, you're not traveling at the rate of travel that you were doing. And they said, we'll hold off on, we'll keep your status as is, but we're not going to start the clock until you start traveling where you feel you're at the same rate. So they paused my status, which is the highest level status you can have with Delta, for 2 years before I started regularly traveling again. Now, there have been moments when I've been on a Delta plane and, we've had to make emergency stops because of equipment failure. And there have been moments when, you've just had bad experiences. But I am pretty loyal because of the relationship they decided to embark with me. That's one story I could tell you.
Angela, I find the point about Delta stepping in when you lost your status or when you were about to lose your status really fascinating. And the reason why I find it fascinating is we just finished conducting a study and we asked people a variety of different questions. Would they rather be rewarded during a scenario where there's a milestone? Congratulations, you've now become a 1K or a diamond. Or would you rather a brand invest in a moment where you are vulnerable? And it was incredible. I mean, depending on the different scenarios, how many people said, I would want a brand to step in during a moment of vulnerability, where appropriate, of course. So one good example, I mean, we're working with an airline, and we said, independent of how big of a frequent flyer you are, the second you travel with your toddler for the first time, it is petrifying.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you drop all confidence. And so how do you lean into that moment? Because that moment is a moment that is remembered. So I want to follow up. You said something interesting. You said someone called you. And I'm curious about, as we evolve into a world where AI or a veneer of AI is enveloping experiences, how important you look after services, how important is the human being in the future of experience and loyalty?
Good question. So I work for Citi now, but that has not, I'm not a banker. I'm a tech marketer turned banker. So I am the least banking individual you're probably going to find at Citi. My career has been based off of data. The data tells us what to do. My marketing style is about monetizing creative. So fast forward now, we're in an AI world. And of course, I'm super excited about the technology and the ability that it allows us to create more productivity. It allows us to scale faster. It gives us the ability to have extra hands to get the work done. And it has a memory of a savant, basically. Definitely not someone in their 50 years plus old memory where, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. But the one thing that AI does not do really well and will never do well is identify the true emotion behind an experience or an action. AI is going to be good to help us commercialize, scale, even strategize, but it does not empathize. And the example that I usually share with my team is, when you walk into the room and you're going in for a marketing pitch or a sales pitch and you're ready, you've got your 10 slides, your hook, how you're going to deliver this, and you walk in the room and you just feel this energy of dread. And you don't know what's causing that energy, but it wasn't the energy you were expecting to walk into the room. And you realize you probably need to pivot because there's something underlying there that you just don't understand. AI is not going to set you up to be able to do that. And that's where the human element is still going to come into play. And loyalty is going to be real key. AI is going to help us with the clarity and be able to give us a better understanding of where we need to direct the ship. but it is not necessarily going to tell us how to move in moments of pivot.
You said something earlier that brands step in when they've messed up as well. Loyalty is basically about a brand taking ownership when they screw something up. You obviously, as a marketer, and a variety of different marketers here, cannot control. United could not control the drama with Newark, right? Half the automotive CMOs cannot control vehicle recalls. I remember we were studying, I'm not going to name the airline, but we were studying the drop in NPS when one airline had a certain meltdown and how long it took them to recover. They lost, I think, 45 percentage points of NPS, and it took them 10 months to recover that NPS because loyalty takes time to be built but can be lost overnight. So my question to you is less about Citi and more about, as a marketer, knowing that things go wrong that are not in your control. How do you prep?
So loyalty to me is fundamentally it's a long game. It's long tail. It's not created in one moment. It's created in multiple moments. And when you hit a crisis, the history that you have with that customer is going to determine how the customer shows up and views that crisis. You were talking about NPS. Within banking, NPS is very structured. It doesn't move that much, a point up, point down, year over year. You don't see a lot of movement like you would a luxury brand or a more consumer brand. However, it can take one moment of distrust and it will catastrophically change the overall sentiment that the customer or the client has on you. The ones in my industry that are able to kind of ride through that are the ones that look at customer experience being their differentiator, and they invest in loyalty. They invest in creating the loyalty through reinforcing advocacy and developing the programs that really put the customer first rather than putting the brand first in the marketing.
And can I ask you, you mentioned that you are, I think you described it as a tech person turned marketer. A lot of loyalty and enablement, like I think everyone in this room can architect some semblance of what the ideal journey is. But the how, the pipes, the data infrastructure is important and crucial. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experience? You came from Oracle, and how important that has been and how crucial that has been in you designing a seamless experience on the front end.
Sure. At Oracle, I was responsible for customer marketing. And like the last panel, I believe that great marketing starts with a great story and that we create memorable moments, and we do that through storytelling. Loyalty to me is truly referenceable marketing at the core. And at the core of referenceable marketing is storytelling. And with data, with technology, what it allows us to do is really pinpoint what our customers' expectations are of us and what their expectations are of themselves when they're interacting with the brand. And the power of the data really can hone in on what you need to do at each moment, each inflection point that you have with the client. It's so critical. When you show up, I'm sure all of us have bought from Amazon, probably most of us in this room in the last 48 hours. I still get tickled every time I show up and they are telling me what they think I should be buying. 70% of the time, it's exactly what I'm going online to buy. That knowing me, understanding what I want, but then when it shows up and it's not necessarily what I wanted initially, the return process is easy. It's just an easy experience. That's all driven by data.
And can I ask, you are the strategic levers of loyalty are often paid off in the long term. They are discipline, they are investment now versus extraction from the business. And in a environment of quarterly earnings, you must feel a lot of pressure to deliver now versus to reap the benefits and play the long game in marketing. Talk to me a little bit about how do you internally manage stakeholders who want you to deliver immediacy and near-term goals at the expense of long-term ones?
So I think we all deal with this daily. It's part of the balancing act of being a marketer. I'm a big believer that everything in marketing can be measured. Everything, everything from the brand colors and your visual identity to the words that you put on the page when you're telling your story. But you've got to balance this out. There are some marketing actions that are much easier to measure and show a return than others. The ones that usually take more have a sentiment of the human element. They're the intuitive component, that emotional component then that when you walked in that room, you knew to pivot your presentation and deliver a different story. That's not necessarily an easy thing to measure at that point in time. It's not something that you're going to see show up on a bar chart in your KPIs in reporting. So we deal with this weekly. How do we put enough out where the business knows, okay, they're going to keep moving forward, and I can see these incremental movements forward, progression, but at the same time dealing with the long-term plans. Loyalty is all about just progressing at a moment forward. Marketing is about progressing at a moment forward. Looking for the combination of the both, how you can manage that. Nick, I think it varies by company and by what your stakeholders are tolerant and managing with you.
Would you be willing to share how or something or a bright spot for Citi that you feel is delivering the loyalty outcome that you would hope for?
So at Citi, we are. I joined Citi about 2.5 years ago, and one of the reasons I joined the company was help shift the narrative. The narrative around the company wasn't bad. Citi is a brand that's been around for over 200 years. We've got a very strong brand sentiment and value to who we are. But Citi doesn't talk about Citi. We're very quiet. We're not boastful. We're usually the last to show up in market and talk about something great. But our clients wanted to share their stories and how they were partnering with Citi and being able to show how Citi was very incremental in their success. So I took advantage of that. Being the marketer I am, loving storytelling, I put our clients on front, basically on the stage in front of everyone. And we created a campaign called This Is My Citi. Now, my business is all about global. We are the infrastructure behind everything from, your local grocery store being able to process payments to being able to move funds across borders, 24/7, to what your investment strategies are, to supply chain financing. Not the most sexy stuff and stuff that you talk about every day, but our clients wanted to talk about it. And that has been, we wouldn't have been able to get the stories that we needed so quickly without having a strong sense of loyalty. Give you an example. We had an investor day about a year and a half ago, which is a big undertaking for a bank. And we had about 4 weeks to record some client stories. And we were able to get Microsoft, the treasurer of Microsoft, on stage, record a video, and be the highlight of our investor day with a 48-hour turn. All approvals, all through legal, through compliance in both companies. That's just unheard of in the banking world.
I mean, particularly for Citi and Microsoft, I can imagine it's not, So we have 2 minutes. I know this has been a very one-way discussion, so I would like to open it up, if it's okay with you, to any questions that we may have from the audience. Yeah, please, in front.
Just a quick question. I mean, you at this point probably done your budgets for next year. If you haven't already started, you're probably done. So what are the priorities? I mean, this time last year, there was a lot of uncertainty because of the new administration. So, what are we looking at this, 2026 as you prepare your budgets in terms of how to reach people and how to communicate with them in the coming year?
Good question. So for us at Citi, it is really about focusing on those interactions with our clients. My business has a very strong in-person portfolio of events. We interact, my team does over close to 200 events a year, just alone. The one area that we're really looking to engage our clients, which are B2B clients, is more through a digital strategy. Podcasts are very popular for a mechanism, a communication mechanism. But we are really investing more in our digital approach. That's where I'm putting my money this year.
Any other questions? I'm still happy to continue if that's okay with you.
No problem. Yeah.
What haven't we covered off? Yeah, so sorry, I'll put you on the spot. For you, outside of Delta, when you look at it as a marketer, like who do you think is doing it well?
So we had Publix on the stage before us, and that's another brand that I think has done things well. I'm a big fan of the Pub Sub. Anyone else know the Pub Sub? Yeah. So living up here now, I have to go back to the South to get my Publix sandwich, basically. But regardless if I was in Florida or Georgia or North Carolina, I could always get the same sandwich, same preparation, same quality. Always delivered.
Which goes back to your initial point around it being about consistency and trust. Yeah. Well, Angela, I know we are at, we haven't. Where did the 43 seconds just pop up from? I thought we went to 0 and now we went back up to 47. Well, anyway, I can use, I still have another 48 seconds. So I'm just going to, kill? Okay, I will kill it. I'm being told from the back that we're done. I wanted to thank you. This has been a true pleasure to hear from you. To learn from you. Your experience is incredible. I love the way you describe yourself as a tech-turned-marketer. And I sleep wiser tonight because of this discussion. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick.
Round of applause, please.
Thank you.